Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, an erotica enthusiast, Jeremy Bryant, a proud stepfather, addicted to movies and TV, who also finds time to podcast, who is here to talk not only about the familiar bracket Bastards and his new show, Paranormal, The New Normal, but also his TGIF crush, DJ Tanner, from one of our favorite Friday night mainstays of the 90s, Full House. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing good today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's Friday, so perfect day to talk about TGIF.
Yeah, actually it is. I didn't even think of that.
Not until this very second did that dawn on me. So it was kismet. Ta-da-da. Now, when it comes to Full House and crushes, it's definitely Uncle Jesse that usually gets all the attention. Rarely do we hear about people clinging to the likes of Danny, Uncle Joey, Stephanie, sometimes Aunt Becky, and rarely DJ. Do you think you were alone growing up in this crush?
Oh, God, no.
Oh. Is there like a hive, a DJ Tanner hive out there?
Well, put it this way. I've read plenty of Full House literotica. Even some stranger ones where Comet got involved, which I'm not going to get into that, but...
Whoa. For those that don't know, Comet was their dog.
The internet is a dark place.
It is. Was it on Tumblr?
No, it was on... I don't even know. I don't know. I've been on so many literotica sites in my time, it's hard to keep track, but literotica.com is the main one, so it might be on there.
Because I talked to a sex educator, and his crush was Tom Hiddleston, Loki, and he went on and on about Tumblr being like key for all that and the fan art and everything. So.
Oh yeah, I know that Tom Hiddleston has a huge fan base of crushes. It's many girls and guys.
So TGIF was stacked full of crushes for everyone, especially young people who fancied a nice girl next door, like the likes of Topanga from Boy Meets World, and even Sabrina, our favorite teenage witch. For you, though, what made DJ Tanner stand out amongst the TGIF crowd?
Well, you gotta remember is that when TGIF first started, like I didn't watch Full House until it was on reruns at Nick at Night, because I was way too young to watch stuff like that when it was out on primetime TV. But basically, DJ Tanner, especially, I mean, I'm not trying to sound like a pedo or anything, because it's the later years that I really have a crush on her when she's a teenager. And I was younger than she was at that point still, so it's not weird. At least in my mind. So.
I mean, it's when the crush starts, you know?
Yeah. I mean, she was just always gorgeous. I mean, when she got into those teenage years in the last few seasons and she would wear like the short skirts and everything. Good God. I mean, even Stephanie, when she got to the older years too, was gorgeous. I mean, and her rebel phase, smoking cigarettes and everything.
Oh, don't get my husband started on Stephanie Tanner nowadays. God, when he saw her on Fuller House, he will not shut up about her. He's like, how much is Stephanie in this episode? I'll watch this one.
Oh, God, yeah, I've seen all of Fuller House, and I hear they might be coming back with more seasons without Bob Saget, but...
Ooh, we'll talk about that later.
But, yeah, I mean, it's... Yeah, even as adults, they're both still knockouts. Like, Stephanie now is every guy's dream. I mean, I used to watch her when she hosted Pants Off, Dance Off at like 2 a.m.
Was that on Fuse?
Yes, it was. I was trying to think of the channel, and I couldn't think of it. I wanted to say IFC for some reason, but Fuse. Yeah, it was on Fuse.
And you were watching Full House and reruns, and I'm sure Boy Meets World was there, other TGIF shows at that time. Did you have any other crushes that were TGIF adjacent?
Well, I actually had to go. I went through a list of TGIF shows this morning just to make sure I didn't mix up shows that really weren't in it, because a lot of shows from that time kind of blend together, and I don't know what channels they were all on. But I mean, you said one already, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I mean, Melissa Joan Hart. I had a crush on her since Clarissa Explains It All, and when she moved to Sabrina the Teenage Witch, she just got hotter and hotter as the years went by.
And I mean, she's still so beautiful. Like I love Melissa Joan Hart so much. Like I love Clarissa, Sabrina. I watched Melissa and Joey, and I even watched her Netflix show that didn't last too long, Goodnight Nick. I just love her.
Yeah, actually, Melissa and Joey and Goodnight Nick are on my to-watch lists, but that list is very, very long.
Well, No Good Nick, very quick watch because it didn't last long. But Melissa and Joey is actually legitimately funny, and they bring people from Sabrina on. And I feel like every Lawrence brother popped in at one point too, so it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was ABC Family, so they bring in guests from everywhere.
That's a good show. Good show. So you didn't watch Full House when it originally aired. So what were some of the shows you were watching when you were younger?
I mean, I stuck to Nickelodeon for a long, long, long time. I would watch, one of the first shows I really started watching that was above my age was The Nanny, because Fran Drescher was just gorgeous.
So what made you like Full House? Because it is a very cheesy show, but I think no matter, it's kind of like the Brady Bunch to me. Like I wasn't old enough to watch Brady Bunch in the 70s. I found it in syndication, but there's something charming about like a cheesy family show. Was that something you liked?
I mean, yeah, I used to live off Nick at Night once Nickelodeon ended, and I mean, Brady Bunch 2 was another one I always watched, and yeah, it was always a little corny, just like all those shows from back then. But I mean, same as Happy Days or any of those Jeffersons or any of those shows. I mean, they were all funny and they were all just corny though, because you could tell once you got old enough, you could tell what the joke was going to be, like once they did something. But I mean, but then again, there were standouts like Three's Company and All in the Family that were better than the rest. Like they just were shows that made you literally knee slapping, laughing out loud on the couch, dying. Like they were so funny.
And so, like, I'm a middle child, so those are the characters I gravitate towards. I love Malcolm. I love Darlene Connor. For you, was DJ kind of being the oldest the reason you liked her the most?
Not really. I mean, I am the oldest out of two, so I mean, to me, I mean, yeah, I kind of got where she came from with like her little sister being annoying. I get that, but I understood that my whole life. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. It was always an attraction thing. I don't know like 100% why. I mean, I am a breast guy, so that could be why she got older. But now I think Stephanie got her beat in that one.
That's what I was going to say. That's why my husband loved Fuller House.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. When that first, I planned on watching Fuller House from the moment I heard about it coming out, but just because it was nostalgia memories. But I mean, as soon as I saw Stephanie in the first scene she was in, I was like, oh my God. And thank God she got rid of the accent right away.
Yeah.
Because that was horrible.
And we can't talk about DJ without talking about her weirder half, which is Kimmy Gibbler. Did your heart ever notice Kimmy at all? Because I gotta say, Fuller House, Kimmy was my girl. I loved her fashion. I loved the character. She was wild.
I mean, back in the old days in the original Full House, like she was always just kind of stupid and annoying to me.
Yeah.
Like that's what she was supposed to be. That's what they made her to be. She was the Urkel of Full House, but Fuller House, she definitely got way better looking. Andrea Barber. I mean, all three of those together in a bedroom with me is my fantasy. But
you'd have a full house.
Exactly.
So I talked to this musician recently named William Henson, and his crush was actually Topanga from Boy Meets World. And he said that he kind of course, he thought she was beautiful, but he also crushed on her relationship with Corey. Did you like DJ's relationship with Steve at all?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, I was a fat kid, so I related to him, always wanted to eat, but I mean, he was always I always kind of thought he was just like a dumbass, and like I was like, why are you with him? He's decent. He's decent looking, but he's not that. I mean, he's just not that good looking. Like, I don't know. Just it never really like. I'm trying to think. There's another guy she dated on the show that made way more sense for her, but he was like a bad boy. So like, yeah, I can see why they didn't keep that going.
But Steve was her true love. Except for the guy that died in Fuller House, whoever that guy was.
The guy,
Kid's dad. Spoiler, if you haven't watched Fuller House.
If they haven't watched it by now, they deserve spoilers.
That's what I'm saying. But what I liked about 90s shows that involved children is that we did get to like grow up with them, because the shows lasted a lot of seasons and they had like 20 some episodes. Nowadays, we watch a show like Stranger Things, and those kids they take so long with production. You had a pandemic. They now look 40 and they're like supposed to be 10th graders.
Well, yeah. What's her name? 11. Her real name.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, like I actually just read an article a couple months ago about how she just turned 18, and like she is disgusted by all these groups online that are like waiting for her to turn 18, so the day she does, they can like start drooling over her publicly.
Yeah, it was the same thing happened, speaking of Full House, to the Olsen twins. There was like a literal website with a countdown clock, and that's even stranger things because I mean, we met them as babies.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sick puppies in this world, but I mean, the Olsen twins, though, I mean, I feel those guys got it bad later on anyway, because now they look like crackheads.
Yeah, they look, they're just like little woodland goblins. But I really wish they
I love that description. I love that description.
I wish they came through for Fuller House.
Oh, you never know. If they bring it back, they just maybe could talk them in. I mean, they were talking at one point about bringing Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch, in to take their place.
That would be amazing.
Which, I mean, talk about another hottie. Like that, she'd be perfect in Fuller House. Then you'd have a freaking 4 of a kind of hot chicks in that show.
So, with Full House, it's probably one of the biggest champions of the very special episodes. That music comes on, Danny's gonna sit the girls down and they get a lesson. What were some topics that you wish they would have tackled if Full House could have pushed the envelope a little more?
I mean, they could have pushed more into like the girl, like they could have pushed more into than just the girls like going on dates or like smoking cigarettes. Like they could have pushed more into like DJ tries to smoke pot maybe, or DJ thinks about losing her virginity for the first time, which I don't think they ever did that episode.
I remember she did go over to Steve's apartment and like Danny like kind of tries to like look through the window, but that's as like close as it got.
Yeah, I mean, they just, because it was 90s and because it was in the middle of the satanic panic, like they just didn't push the envelope like they do on shows nowadays. Like the whole movie, Cock Blocker, whatever it's called, Cock Blockers.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Blockers, I think it's called. But like, if they like that whole scenario, they should have done the Full House episode with like them finding out that, like they did on Fresh Prince, kind of. They did on Fresh Prince with Ashley and Will and Carlton overheard talking about it on the intercom. Like they could have done that at Full House. It was around the same time that came out. I mean, maybe they did on that show because it was a African American show mainly, and maybe they thought that was more acceptable on that for some reason. But
they were NBC and ABC's Disney, so
true. Disney ruins everything.
Well, things didn't get that racy on Full House. Didn't really get that racy on Fuller House, which you mentioned. You were like all in. Did it meet your expectations? Especially
yes.
With DJ?
Yeah, I mean, it did. Just because, I mean, well, I've always had a thing for pregnant women too. So when Kimmy got pregnant and then Stephanie got pregnant, like that was my cashing in my Full House, literally on the card table, getting all the money.
And are you someone who likes to keep tabs on like the actors that you have crushes on too? Like, do you follow Candace Cameron Bure on like Instagram and whatnot?
I might follow her on Twitter. I don't really know because I follow so many celebrities on Twitter. It's just after a while you get lost. Actually, I think I do. I do follow her on Facebook. I know I do because I see her. I mean, the only thing that made me stop like really paying attention to her is when Full House ended and she became an adult, is because she got super religious.
Yeah.
And that just turned me off. Like I'm agnostic and I believe there's possibilities of religion out there, but I just don't like to assume religion is out there. And her turning religious was like such a turn off.
I feel like she's dialed it back a little. It's her brother that went off the deep end in that respect, and I feel like she dialed it back.
I think she did now, especially once she got back on Fuller House.
And all those Lifetime movies.
Yeah, like once she started acting again, I think she kind of like dialed it back because she didn't want to go like full Tom Cruise Scientology or anything.
Do you think that, you already mentioned they've been talking about Fuller House coming back, but do you think they're going to wait bit, just maybe a little down the road, so we can call it Fullest House, and it would be about DJ's sons moving into the iconic San Francisco home?
I believe they are going to call it Fullest House already, but I think it's, from what I read, I think her boys are still boys, but I think it's, what the heck happens? They said like what it would possibly be. I read this article like 6 months ago, I think, and I forget what the hell I'm pretty sure they said it would be called Fullest House, but I think they'd want to do it sooner than later though, so they can get the Bob Saget sympathy moments that will get ratings, and we'll get viewers, because I mean, if they play on that and they play like flashbacks of like old parts of him and like them all sad because they're thinking about him. They did it on some show when someone died. I can't think of who it was.
8 Simple Rules when John Ritter.
Yeah. I mean, they did with when John Ritter died. Yeah, they did it on that for a couple episodes, but then they kind of stopped.
We've reached the part of the interview where it's time to envision your life with DJ Tanner. Say you were her Steve, and after some time apart, you got to reunite with her. How do you think you would fit into the Fuller House realm?
Well, we definitely wouldn't be singing "Let's Get Married" down the street, but that's for damn sure. Because those scenes, I just watch them like, what the hell are they thinking? But besides the fact that Dave Coulier and Bob Saget come waltzing down the middle of it all, that part's hilarious. But I mean, I always, with all those shows, that's the perfect life. That's a nice suburban house, 4 or 5 bedrooms with the white picket fence. It's like what every kid in the 90s was supposed to dream of having.
I mean, who didn't dream of living in the Full House?
I didn't, because it's city. I'm not a city person. I hate cities.
I will say this was before I'd ever stepped foot in San Francisco, and anyone who knows me, I will stand on my soapbox. That is one of the worst cities in the world. I hate it. Sorry to those who live there. Yeah, my best friend moved there, and she loved it, and I was like, it's too many hills. There's human feces everywhere on the ground. It's so dirty. I can't.
Oh, because of the homeless issue, I think.
This is just like dirt. It's just dirt. I don't like things that are dirty. Like, I moved from California to Virginia, and every day I'm like, it's so clean. It's so clean here. The sidewalks are so clean. And it's not just like because of homeless people. It's just like pollution, and there's so many people. Like, you can't keep a city clean. Like, there's never trash on the ground here.
I mean, I've never been to California at all because I live on the East Coast, so it's never been an option for me to go out there yet. I've always wanted to go to San Diego, mainly because of the zoo, but
it's a great zoo.
Because I am a zoo person, and I always love nice zoos. I mean, I grew up an hour and a half away from the Bronx Zoo, so I did get a good one near me at least. Oh, a couple good ones actually, but yeah, I like with DJ Tanner, end up having like 3, 4 kids, whatever, maybe 5. I mean, I'm sure she'd keep me busy making them, so.
Well, wonderful life. Maybe get her to sell that home in San Francisco, because I'm sure it's worth millions now, and moves out of the city.
Yeah, we move to a suburb outside of San Francisco, so we're living in the burbs. I'm down with that.
Still further, because it's still very expensive. Further.
Well, if you're married to DJ Tanner, she'd have money.
She's a vet.
True, and vets make decent money.
Mm-hmm. And so
actually, no, I've been taking my puppy to a vet, so yeah, they make good money.
Yeah, I know, right? So now it's time to talk more about what you have going on. We just chatted with Freddie, your fellow bracket bastard, and so I know how the whole show got started, but how did you become a part of it?
Well, I was in Freddie's group Bracketology because I was already in like another group called Entertainment Polls, and it got recommended to me by the little bar, like when you're in the group that says other groups you may enjoy. Mm-hmm. And so I joined Bracketology, and eventually Freddie posted something saying he was looking for people to be on a podcast with them, doing the same thing we did in the group, just on a podcast. And I always wanted to be a podcaster because of my heroes, Kevin Smith, Mark Maron. So I wrote him back right away, and I'm like, yeah, I would love to be on one. I have no problem hearing my voice. So he talked to me. We talked, and for a little while, he kind of interviewed me over Messenger about it. And then a couple months went by, and I thought, like, all right, maybe he just didn't do it. And then, or I'd message him. I would message him every couple weeks and just be like, are you still doing that? He's like, yeah, I'm trying to find more people. And then like in end of October, beginning of November, he messaged me. He said, "Hey, I found this other guy, Harvey. He has a podcast of his own already, so he'd be good for it." He's like, "Let's do a trial run and see how it goes. We're not going to record it. We'll just do a trial bracket and see how the three of us do." And we did an unrecorded bracket of television and movie vehicles, which was a really fun bracket to do. And basically, we thought it went well. We had great chemistry. We all started joking off each other. I even call Harvey the Mark Bernard and my Kevin Smith. And from there, it just basically grew. Freddie got a guy he worked with to come on, and eventually that guy's wife ended up being part of it too. And then another person from Iowa, Freddie knew, ended up being a rotating person, kind of coming in out when she's needed. And now we got our last permanent member, who is another Iowan. It's a very Iowa populated podcast, but yeah, he came in and he can do all these impressions that make it and it's funny because his name is Chancey, and him and myself just started a music podcast, and the first episode dropped today.
What's that called?
It's called Maniacal Musings. Gotta love the alliteration.
I know. I when I write, as a freelance writer, I love alliteration. I'm like, now it sounds poetic.
Yeah, no. Originally, it was going to be called Maniacal Music Reviews, but I'm like, that doesn't sound good to me. And I'm like sitting there thinking on it. I'm like, musings. I'm like, yep, that works. And we actually just recorded the first episode a couple days ago, and I just edited it all last night, and it came out this morning. And we'll be dropping new episodes every week on Fridays.
Do you review albums?
Yes.
What do you muse about?
Each week we challenge each other to listen to an album the other person recommends, and then we have to review the album and give our top 5 songs off it. Like on the first episode we just did that came out today, Chancey made me listen to an album of a band I never heard of even, called American Head Charge. And I think the album was called The War of Art, and I challenged him to listen to Esham's Booming Words from Hell, the first ever horrorcore rap album to come out in 1988. So it was a good episode. I mean, he's more of a rock guy. I'm a rap, rock, metal, whatever guy. I mean, I'll touch anything but country. But so we're a good pair, and eventually we're going to start having guests on every week as well. So I may be hitting you up to come on as a guest at some point.
Ooh, I will take a country album.
Well, here's the thing. Once we start putting guests on, there's going to be a third album thrown in the mix that the guest brings to the table.
Well, get ready for some Garth Brooks and boy bands.
I can do boy bands just fine, and Garth Brooks I can respect.
Oh God, I got to see him live once when he did Jimmy Kimmel Live, and it just was life-changing. Like, that guy performs Friends in Low Places like it is the first time every time. Like, he was having the time of his life. I was like, respect. Oh my God, it was amazing. He's like one of my vocal crushes.
I was gonna say, talking about DILFs.
Vocally, yes, but physically, never. Never.
Really?
Nah, he's fine, but it's just like he's just some guy. Vocally, though, him and like Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20. Oh
yeah.
My God.
Yeah, I can still picture Rob Thomas in that video with Santana back in 98 or 99.
99. Best year ever. So Freddie gave us some of his favorite brackets thus far, but what about you? And you mentioned you watched Obi-Wan, so you're not a hater like him. He mentioned Star Wars was no-go.
Yes, I call a lot of people on this on Bracket Bastards the tasteless bastards, because they hate on Star Wars, which I can't fathom hating on Star Wars. I just can't. It's one of the greatest entertainment inventions ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, George Lucas is a god, but I mean, they drive me nuts with that crap, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes when we have a space movies bracket coming up in July. So we'll see how that goes. My own brother might be on that as a guest. So, and he's definitely a Star Wars fan like I am. But some of the fair ones we've done. I mean, well, we just did my birthday bracket. It came out last Thursday, the 26th, on my birthday. So we did my top 34 of TVs, film, and music. It was, yeah, I mean, it was my top 30. Well, no, it wasn't 34. It was broken up between different categories, but it was 8 movies, 8 TV shows, and then the rest of it was all music. Rock. There was a rock section, there was a rap section, but that was definitely one of my favorites because I got to make everybody listen to my music, and that was always fun. And we've also done we did a Will Smith bracket. Really, I'm sure Freddie mentioned that too. But we did a Will Smith bracket in honor of Harvey, who hates Will Smith. So, and I'm the one who got to pick the next topic because I won our trivia game.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, Harvey left early that day. So I'm like, Freddie, I'll message you after we get off and I'll let you know. And then as soon as he got off, I'm like, we're doing a Will Smith bracket for Harvey. We're not going to tell anybody till we start doing it. And that's exactly what we did.
Just gets thrown under the bus every time.
Oh, we all get thrown under the bus plenty. It's all fair. It's all fun and games until we're all under the bus. But
would there be like one actor where you're like, they would plot against you?
Not really, because I don't find myself really hating any specific actor. If I hate anything, it's just movies. I mean, it has to be. I would hate the movie. I wouldn't hate the actor. Because I never found an actor that I can't stand in everything they do. Like, it just doesn't exist in my world.
Interesting. And on top of being a bracket bastard, you also just kicked off another show on top of the musical Musings, Paranormal, The New Normal. Are you someone that grew up enthralled with like Unsolved Mysteries, The X-Files, things like that?
Well, funny enough, when I was a kid, I used to watch Simpsons and whatever was on after it, Futurama, whatever it was before that. And then when X-Files would come on at 9 o'clock on Fox on Sunday nights, just the music in the beginning, the I'd be running in my room like a scared little bitch.
Same. I was terrified of that. I don't think I've seen like one episode, I think when they brought it back. And I saw one episode like as a kid, and it was about like people that are creatures that could like, I think, blend into trees or something. And we had like a clothesline out back and there were trees. And I was like, my mom's like, go get the laundry. I was like, hell, I was like, no. I was so scared.
Yeah, I mean, but I got over the fear of it eventually, and I watched all the original series on Netflix back in like 2012, 2013, and then I watched the reboot when not the reboot, the return of it on Fox when it came on a few years, like 5-6 years ago now. And I am a huge X-Files fan now because I also got into the paranormal within that time. So, I mean, X-Files became huge to me, but I was that kid in elementary school in like 4th and 5th grade who worked in the library during his lunch period just because he was a goody two-shoes who liked books. So I would actually work in the library during lunch, like putting away returned books and stuff like that, or just doing whatever the librarian needed help with. And there was one book I always got out that was just cryptids. It was Bigfoot, it was Loch Ness, and even at the end, there was a little section of what if dinosaurs still exist in the deepest jungles. And that book, I rented that from the library so many times and just reread it. And I was always interested in the paranormal since that age. And I would watch Monsters and Mysteries in America on Destination America channel, like when it was on 10, 15 years ago now. And I mean, I'd watch any show I could find on it, but I didn't find out about like Unsolved Mysteries or any of that until I was way older. It's just, my parents were very strict about what I could watch on TV. I mean, I had to sneak and watch South Park in my room with Nick at Night on the last button. So if I heard anyone come down the hallway, I could quickly change it. But
my mom would record South Park for me because I couldn't stay up that late because I'd be tired. So I would watch it in the morning before school. My mom loved South Park just as much as we did. She had all the Cartman dolls at the time. I had all the Kyle ones.
Wait a minute. So then, who was your crush on South Park then?
I love Kyle. Kyle's my favorite character. I have a Kyle tattoo. I just think he's the voice of reason. He goes against Cartman. I just like what he stands for. But like side character, Autumn, Mr. Hanky's wife, the drunk piece of poop. She's amazing.
Oh my god, that is such a pull from a random character that was in like one or
we went to New York for one of the last times I got to go, and they had one of those Christmas stores. I got a Mrs. Hanky Christmas ornament. I love her so.
Yeah, I mean, but I wouldn't say Kyle is the voice of reason. Stan's usually the voice of reason.
He's
Kyle was the stereotypical Jew in the whole show always.
He always just goes against Cartman, and I like that. He's like not afraid to stand up to Cartman and his BS.
Oh my God! Tell me you saw the COVID special where they're grown-ups.
Yeah, and he was hot there. Grown-ups.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you thought that about him as well. But I mean, it's just the fact that like Cartman all of a sudden is nice to him and has his kids call him Uncle Kyle. And like he turns Jewish, becomes a rabbi. Spoilers for those who haven't watched it, but it's so funny because the whole time Kyle's like, "What are you up to, Cartman? What are you up to?"
I mean, I would be suspect too of Cartman.
When Cartman's doing his wife in the bedroom, he brings up like Moses and everything so loud that Kyle can hear it. Like I was fucking dying laughing. Like it was so freaking hilarious.
They knocked it out of the park with those ones.
Oh, they did. And the fact that they're not ending it anywhere in the near future or far future probably, because it's just such an American classic at this point that they never will end it, because they will be current events to go off of.
Exactly. And they always have things of the paranormal. I mean, they kicked off with aliens. You have the Scuzzlebutt, which my family dog was named after. R.I.P. for her.
Scuzzlebutt.
Yeah, that was her. She was 16 years old when she passed. But what are some of your favorite aspects of the paranormal?
I always believed in conspiracies and government cover-ups, like since I was a kid. So that's one of the aspects I always loved about it. Aliens always interested me because, I mean, I can't believe that anybody could exist in this world and expect that we're the only planet that has life on it. I mean, it seems impossible. There has to be at least, I mean, that's the same reason I don't believe in religion, really, because there can't be just one God. There has to be another one, because there's never one of anything in this universe. So it just doesn't, I mean, that right there is why it doesn't make sense to me, why people can't believe in this type of stuff. I mean, Bigfoot alone, there's so much proof. And even if quarter to half of it's fake, that's still a lot of proof.
Well, you'd get along with my nephew. He is also into cryptids, Bigfoot being his favorite. There's a Bigfoot convention near us, and unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be able to make it out from California for it. I was like expecting him to, but he won't fly on a plane. I won't put him on a plane by himself for the first time alone, so maybe next year.
Oh, I'm sure he'd be in heaven. I've yet to go to conventions because I never hear about them.
I was just looking up things in the area when we moved here, and that was one of them, and I was like, okay, something for him. So I know Bracket Bastards has a lot coming up this summer. Ready, tune us in. But what can you tell us about Paranormal, the New Normal, in the coming weeks that we can look out for? And your other one.
With Paranormal, the New Normal, I just dropped an episode last week of, which has been, it's slowly become my most listened to episode yet. My pilot episode with a girl, Shauna, who's been on Bracket Bastards with us as a guest multiple times. She's my highest listened to episode. I don't know if it's just because of her friend base or whatnot, but because I market all my episodes in the same places every time, and her episode is above 30 listens at this point, and no other episode has gotten close to that high yet. But my last episode is slowly climbing up towards it, because it's about a guy who was in the military, and he's been a paranormal investigator basically since he was a kid, and he has seen the devil 3 times, he believes. Whether you believe in religion or not, I still believe that there's creatures of the underworld and creatures of a heavenly world, for lack of a better term. But so I believe in all that, even though I don't believe in religion. Because there's got to be something below and above. So I mean, his stories are just so, and he also is a good storyteller as well. Like, he's very good with his voice, and he can make his stories sound amazing. But I truly believe at least parts of his stories, because I mean, I play the skeptic in every episode because someone has to. It's just the way of the world. And it also makes it more interesting if someone's playing a skeptic, because then you get both viewpoints and you can decide for yourself what you believe. His last story, the only thing I could say at the end of it literally was, holy shit. Literally the only thing I could say at the end of his last story, because it's just like, it was almost like straight out of a horror movie, but I know it's not because it's too specific to be out of a horror movie, and it's just creepy. Which, I mean, I don't even think that last story was a devil story. I mean, it might have been, but it was definitely a demonic story.
Ooh, and can you tell people where they can find this demonic story, Bracket Bastards, and your musical podcast?
You can find Bracket Bastard, Paranormal, The New Normal, and Maniacal Musings, all on Spotify, and the first two are on Amazon, they're on Stitcher, they're on Apple, iTunes, they're on basically on anywhere where you can find any podcatcher you use, you can find them on it usually.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about your TGIF crush. And everyone, you can find all of his information below. And until next time, keep crushing it.